We do have much more on our website on all of our stories, but just really quickly, we can tell you that one lucky ticket holder could win the biggest lottery prize the UK has ever seen tonight. It's the Euro Millions jackpot is rolled over again to an estimated £208 million. If you win it, do get in touch.
This is BBC News Live, and you're joining us on a bit of a first today because this is the first time we're bringing you live coverage from the BBC's new streaming centre. It's in the middle of our London newsroom, and I'm surrounded by our teams of journalists who are tracking today's stories. And it's from here that we can bring you live coverage of events. We can bring you a bit closer to our journalism. We can show you how we verify and check our facts. And I'm surrounded by many very experienced journalists to help walk us through and explain why stories matter. Now, we're going to be bringing you coverage in the next few minutes of an event that's happening today. And it is a speech by the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch. And she's going to be talking about a subject which has been really contentious in UK politics in the last few years. And that is because she's about to set out plans to look at whether the UK should pull out from the European Convention on Human Rights. That's the ECHR for short. We're going to be hearing from our political teams to just explain the significance of this. And we can join now Chris Mason, who's our political editor. He's going to be getting a front row seat at that speech today, and he's joining us from the venue now. Hi, Chris. How's it going? All right, thanks, Chris. Hopefully you didn't disturb people in that nice, quiet environment there too much. Well, as Chris was saying, this is something which critics of the ECHR feel is getting in the way of the UK's national interest, that it's blocked things in the past that the government wants to do. But let's hear a bit more about the position on this from the Conservatives. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, he's been speaking to the Today programme earlier. He was talking about why currently the Conservatives are increasingly of the view that we should leave the ECHR. Let's have a listen. So you're hearing there some of the frustrations with the European Convention on Human Rights. You can see now live pictures of that podium. That's where the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, is going to be making that speech. It's certainly going to create a lot of debate, but I'm going to take the time just to take you back through a couple of key cases through the archives. You might remember some of these. Now, in January 2012, the European Convention, or rather the European Court on Human Rights, which makes rulings on these cases, it blocked the deportation of the radical cleric Abu Qatada. That was because of fears that evidence obtained under torture would be used against him in his home country, something which generated lots of headlines, caused a lot of debate about the ECHR, the powers that it has and the way in which it binds the UK to certain rulings. Another one too, the prisoners' vote. That was in 2005. If you can remember back that far, the ECHR ruled that banning prisoners from voting in the UK was a breach of their human rights. That's also something which caused a lot of anger in government and across the country. So you can see how long this debate has been going on for now. Let's join Ian Watson, another of our political team who's been following this. Ian, this isn't just about what the ECHR does, is it? There's a wider political story to all of this about the Conservatives and how they've been struggling in elections. Just tell us the wider backdrop. Great explanation. I'm going to jump in because she's taking to the podium right now. Let's listen in.
Thank you for that introduction, Jonathan. Right, I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much, everybody.
We've been listening there to a pretty punchy speech by Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives, setting out why she believes that the European Convention on Human Rights and other treaties is getting in the way of common sense actions that she said the UK government should be taking. Just to recap a few of the key points of her speech there, she talked about how lawyers, she said, are constructing arguments to keep people in the UK, and they're almost sort of playing the system in one sense, and how they've got pretty good at doing that to circumnavigate and make use of the kind of laws that they can. She talked about the ECHR being a sword used to attack democratic decisions and common sense. And she said the biggest area where lawfare is affecting the country is illegal immigration. Then she went on to break down exactly why she thinks the European Convention on Human Rights is standing in the way of things that the government wants to do. Let's bring in our political correspondent, Ian Watson, once again. Ian, a pretty comprehensive speech there by Kemi Badenoch. A lot of the questions were focusing on the challenge that Nigel Farage and reform posed to the Conservatives. What do you think she is hoping to get out of this today? Let's just look at a few other key points that she made there. She talked about endless cases of the worst types of criminals that she said had been allowed to stay in Britain and been prevented from being deported. She also mentioned veterans from the conflict in Northern Ireland who've been brought back to give evidence decades later. You're with BBC News Live.